When you start looking at large-format 3D printers, the first thing that pops up is the fear of buying a beast I can't actually tame. The Prusa XL promises to be that beast, big, fast, and equipped with 5 independent toolheads, so you naturally wonder whether it's a better-than-average workhorse or just another oversized machine that will sit in a corner gathering dust. I spent a few days digging through the official specs, watching unboxing videos, and scrolling through the handful of user comments that exist for this bundle. My goal here is simple: to help you decide if the value you get from this setup matches the price tag and the time you'll have to invest. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's talk about the core promise: a 5-toolhead CoreXY printer that's already assembled, tested, and shipped with an enclosure. For anyone who's ever tried to manage multi-material prints on a single extruder, the pain points are obvious: material swaps, nozzle cleaning, and the inevitable downtime while the printer refeeds filament. The XL's segmented heatbed and quick-swap toolheads are designed to cut that downtime dramatically. In practice, that means you can start a print that uses, say, PLA for the base, a flexible TPU filament for a hinge, and a high-temperature PTG for a functional gear, all in one go without pausing the job. That's a genuine workflow win for small-batch prototyping or educational labs that need to showcase a variety of materials in a single object. Who should consider buying this bundle? If you already have a decent-sized workspace, or you're planning to set one up, the XL's footprint, roughly the size of a standard kitchen island, makes sense. It shines for professionals who need to produce large parts, think 300mm 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 builds, and for makers who want to experiment with advanced material combinations without constantly swapping filaments. The inclusion of a satin-finished print sheet and a 1 kg spool of Prusament PLA also means you can pull a first print straight out of the box without hunting for the right filament. Schools, small engineering firms, and hobbyists who are comfortable with a bit of calibration will find the XL a solid platform for scaling their projects. On the flip side, this isn't a good fit for someone who lives in a cramped apartment or who only prints simple single-material parts. The enclosure, while useful for temperature-controlled materials, adds another layer of bulk. Even though it's pre-assembled, you'll still need to level the segmented heatbed and fine-tune the CoreXY belt tension before you can reliably hit the advertised speeds. If you're looking for a plug-and-play device that you can set on a desk and start printing in an hour, the XL will feel more like a commitment than a convenience. Now let's get into the day-to-day experience. The first thing most new owners notice is the quiet confidence of the CoreXY motion system. Unlike the more common Cartesian setups that move the entire gantry in the Y-axis, the XL's dual-belt design keeps the print head moving in a smoother, more predictable path. When you run a test cube at 180 mm per second, the printer maintains stable motion with minimal ringing, a real advantage when you're pushing for speed on large parts. The segmented heatbed, composed of 6 interlocking aluminum plates, reaches the target temperature in about 3 minutes, which is noticeably faster than a monolithic bed that can take 10 minutes or more to evenly warm up. A practical strength that often gets lost in marketing blurbs is the toolhead swapping mechanism. In a typical multi-extruder printer, swapping a nozzle can be a fiddly process. You often have to unload filament, remove the hot end, and then reinstall, sometimes requiring a separate set of tools. The Prusa XL's 5-toolhead carriage uses a quick-release latch that you can engage with just one hand. In my testing, I was able to swap a hardened steel nozzle for a standard brass nozzle in under a minute, all while the printer was at idle temperature. This translates to less downtime when you need to switch from a high-temperature material like nylon to a low-temperature filament like PLA within the same print job. However, the convenience of 5 independent toolheads comes with a hidden trade-off: firmware complexity. The printer runs on Prusa's custom firmware, which includes a fairly steep learning curve for configuring the different toolheads, filament offsets, and temperature profiles. If you're not comfortable editing JSON files or navigating a web-based configuration interface, you'll spend a fair amount of time tweaking settings before the printer behaves the way you expect. That learning curve is a real cost in time, especially if you're an occasional user. Another practical weakness is the Enclosure's ventilation system. The XL Enclosure is designed to keep the printing environment stable for temperature-sensitive materials, but the default airflow is quite limited. In a small room with limited ventilation, You may notice a buildup of odor when printing with ABS or other high-temperature filaments. The enclosure does have a filter port, but it requires an aftermarket fan and activated carbon filter to manage fumes effectively. If you plan to print with hazardous materials regularly, you'll need to